Hey everybody, Grace here. Welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about my latest version of Fairies in GOAT format and why I think the deck is actually really good. This video will be kind of unscripted. I just wanted to talk about some theory behind the deck and kind of make the case for it. Because there's really nobody playing anything like this really, besides, massive shout out to Grumple, one of my friends who I talk quite a bit of theory about this deck with, who's really helped me with it. He also has his own like Earth Fairy deck that I think is really cool that plays Mudora. It's really explosive and yeah, I think it's really cool. But yeah, like I said, I've been working on this deck for a long time. You could see my videos. I don't even know how long it was ago, maybe a year ago, more, I can't remember, where I got third place at a Patreon playing Fairies, but it was a very different version of the deck. It was not chaos centric. It was pretty much solely light monsters, and the deck is very good. It has some of the good, the same, I would definitely change the build now compared to when I played it. If I was playing this kind of light heavy version, I think the deck is good, but it was kind of a starting point for me in figuring out why this engine works, why I believe in it. When I've been playing this deck for months and months, it's not that I'm like banging my head against a wall. It's because I think it's really good, and I've been getting wins with it against good players on good decks, and I genuinely believe in some of the concepts that work here. And so that was kind of the starting point for me in figuring out what I like about this and where I think I kind of need to lean into or where I need to lean away from to make this, kind of Venus engine as good as it can possibly be. I've played, like I said, I've played a lot of matches with these types of strategies and continued to refine it, and this is kind of where I'm at the moment. So I'll give you the kind of broad overview, if you've never watched any of my videos about Fairies, of why I think this strategy does well. And it really boils down to its matchup against Chaos Turbo. This deck does very well against Chaos Turbo, the best deck in GOAT format. Now, unfortunately, some of its other matchups are not quite as good, but I've tried to find ways with the deck to kind of remedy the opposing matchups. So why exactly is this deck good? Well, I think that Zaborg is a very good card against Chaos Turbo. I think Creature Swap is a very good card against Chaos Turbo. And this deck is really heavily reliant on these like 2-card combos that kind of enable you to make nice pluses on your opponent. And it plays very well into what the kind of Chaos Turbo strategy is trying to do. And so that was kind of what I originally figured out when I played this deck for the very first time, my original version that I topped with, because I was finding success in that Chaos Turbo matchup, but I was really struggling against aggro. I was really struggling against virtually everything else. And so I wanted to try to find a version of this deck that still has those pluses against Turbo, where you can make these nice creature swaps, Zaborg plays, but at the same time, it has a little more resilience against the aggro matchups. And this is kind of what I settled on, is going a more chaos-centric route and kind of cutting the warrior package that I had in. I think that there's a way that, there's a kind of more light aggro version of this deck can succeed, but I'm really leaning into what I think makes this deck good, and that is the Venus, Zaborg, creature swap, 2-card combos. Now, why do I think this is really good? Because there's plenty of decks that play creature swap, there's plenty of decks that play Zaborg, but I think Venus supports these cards better than any other deck, any other card in GOAT format can. I genuinely believe that, and I think that's mainly because of the fact that Venus is able to summon multiple monsters onto the board in one turn. I mean, let's talk about Zaborg and creature swap individually and why I think Venus pairs really well with them. First and foremost, like, what are your typical Zaborg tribute targets, right? When we look at a deck that plays Zaborg, we know Zaborg is very powerful against Chaos Turbo because it allows you to put pressure on board. It gets after their flip monsters. Sometimes Chaos Turbo will have those setups where they go, summon a Chaos Sorcerer and then set a Magician of Faith next to it. And that board is so hard to break in GOATs, but Zaborg easily clears both of them if you're able to tribute for it. And so we all know this card is quite powerful against Chaos Turbo. And so what are your typical targets for it, right? Well, in like the Thunderclap type decks, it's things like Gravekeeper Spy. It's like used up flips. Sometimes it's Sanguine. Sometimes it's Sinister. Sometimes it's a Zumbira that you might have attacked once or twice with that you're able to tribute off for the Zaborg, and those are all great like tribute targets in this format. But the problem often is that you need those cards to stick on board for a turn or two in order to make the Zaborg resolve. So if I set a Spy and the only monsters in my hand are Spy and Zaborg, and Spy happens to get knocked or something happens to it, whatever, then this Zaborg is just sitting here dead. And that's one of the problems with this card. That's why I think Venus is so great, because it's summoning multiple monsters onto the board. Against Chaos Turbo, like early game, they really don't want to be getting after your Shine Balls that quickly. Like they want to set their own flips. Now, I've played against some Turbo players that really know what they're doing, against this deck, that kind of know what I'm trying to do, and they know first and foremost you have to get rid of these Shine Balls. You have to get rid of the Venus because it's going to enable the whole strategy. But most of the Chaos Turbo players I play against, if I summon a Venus first turn, unless they have Tribe and they can clear my field, which definitely one of the downsides, like you just get wiped by Tribe, but it's one card, so I'm not too concerned about it all the time. If it happens, it happens. But in general, like if I summon Venus first turn and summon a Shine Ball, most of the time, like my opponent that's playing Chaos Turbo will sometimes either just set a Dekoichi back or set a Spy back or something along those lines, which just perfectly plays into what you are trying to do. And so these early 2-card combos with the Zaborg and the swap really allow you to take advantage of those kind of early setups from Chaos Turbo. So that's why I feel like Zaborg is just so much more supported by this, because the fact that you're summoning multiple monsters on the board, it really increases the chances of you get back to your turn and you're going to be able to tribute summon the Zaborg to get a nice plus off. And so to really support the Zaborg, I play other cards that really support the card, such as Spy. Reaper is an amazing card that, these are both defensive as well as offensive cards. And these are cards that also slow down the aggression of aggro decks. This is part of the change that I made to really fix the aggro matchup, was bringing in these types of cards that can either slow down the pace of the play or allow me to get aggressive as needed. And they are also great tribute targets for Zaborg. I know 3 Zaborg seems a bit excessive, and that's some of the criticisms I've heard about my lists when I've talked with people before. But we play, in my opinion, enough cards that support it. And the problem that very often happens with this deck is when you summon Venus first turn, or you have a Venus in hand first turn, and you don't have any of those 2-card combos that I mentioned, like Zaborg or Creature Swap. You have nothing to go with it. They don't do a whole lot. They really are reliant on those, those 2-card combos. So I want to maximize my chances of drawing those combos. And yeah, sometimes you can brick on the Zaborg, but so many of our monsters, the Reapers, the Spies, the Shine Balls, they're sticky. They stay around on board for a while, that allow us to tribute summon the Zaborg. Now, I also want to talk about Creature Swap, why I think it is very good in this deck, and I think it's the exact same reason that I talk about with Zaborg. It's because Venus is summoning multiple monsters, and this is key. What are good Creature Swap targets, right? We can think of Scapegoat tokens are obviously probably the best, for the same reason that I like the Shine Balls, because you have multiple monsters on board, so your Creature Swap play is not going to get blown up. That was the problem I encountered with the light aggro version of this deck, is I would try to Creature Swap, I'd try to send my opponent a Shining Angel, and if, the Chaos Turbo player, if they chain Raigeki Break or Wing Blast targeting my, Shining Angel, then I just go mega minus, and this swap fizzles and basically lose the game. So I want to make swap reliable by having multiple monsters on board. And swap, like, turn 2 is just incredible. Like, there's no other deck that can basically, so let's say, I'll give you a hypothetical scenario here. This happens a lot when I play this deck, is, I'm playing against Chaos Turbo. First turn, they set Spy, they set Raigeki Break or something along those lines, or they set Spy or Ring or Dekoichi or Ring or Dekoichi or Raigeki Break, something along those lines. It's a pretty common, first turn setup for Chaos Turbo. If I had like a Mystic Tomato or a Shining Angel or something that I wanted to swap over to my opponent, they're going to be able to chain Raigeki Break and blow up my play, where Venus is one of the only cards where if they make that, they do that board turn 1 and they pass back to me, I can make this creature swap play happen. It's just mega plus. And sometimes like they're even forced to Raigeki break their own monster to ensure that I don't get it. But at that point, they've already gone really minus on it. And so I just feel like this Venus Shineball thing makes Swap and Zaborg cards that are sometimes bricky and unreliable. It makes them much more reliable. Now, we'll get the obvious, kind of downside out of the way with Venus is the fact that you have to play these vanillas. That's just part of it. I mean, I think that's just part of playing the deck. It's like in, Edison format, playing Diva, playing Deep Sea Diva, like you can often draw into the Spine Gilman. Now, Gilman at least provides more value than these Shine Balls do, but very often these are okay. Like they can be, knock targets. They can, if they can stick around for a turn, they can be tribute targets. You can just raw set them and creature swap them over. None of this ever feels good, obviously. Other thing I want to talk about is why I play 2 Shine Balls as opposed to 3, because I've had people mention this before. I think it really depends on what version of the deck that you're playing. I think there's some versions that if you play like United We Stand or are really heavy on like the aggro side of things, I could definitely see running 3 Mystical Shine Balls, but really at the end of the day, I just want to decrease my chances of drawing it. And there's rarely scenarios that come up where I go Venus, summon a Shine Ball or 2. If I draw a Shine Ball, I usually won't summon it off of Venus unless there's a specific reason for me to. I usually keep it in my hand because eventually I can draw into, Tribe to discard it, Graceful to discard it, something along those lines. But, even if I just summon 1 Venus, 1 Shine Ball, that's usually enough. Yeah, sorry, I got timed out. Like I said, it's usually enough. So I've kind of explained the Venus, the kind of core of this deck. The Venus, Zaborg, creature swaps, that's like the heart and soul of what makes this deck work. Because these cards, when you can get these, 2-card combos off, it just really swings the advantage in your favor and really breaks up those early Chaos Turbo boards. Some other cards I want to talk about. Sanguine. It's just a great tribute target. It searches out so many things we want in this deck. It's a key dark. That's one of the things that's interesting. This is a Chaos deck, but typically in Chaos decks, you're yearning for more lights, where in this one, you almost have a shortage of darks. So it is a good, key dark to have. It's a great, pairs obviously well with creature swap, pairs well with what you're trying to do really in this deck. Double Faith. I think if I didn't run the Reapers, I probably wouldn't run the Faiths. I think I need to run enough flips to necessitate the Faiths so that they're just not getting knocked every time. Now, I know that's not always a great argument because of, how Warrior plays 1 Magician of Faith for the same reason, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I need to necessarily justify playing this card when I run so many good spells, and I think it's just, it's just a staple in the format. I think this is a deck where it really works well. Oftentimes you can, flip it, and if it stays around on board, you can swap it over or something along those lines. There's, plenty of good plays that Magician of Faith opens up, and you run a lot of good spells. I do encounter this from time to time where the Faiths and the Spies just get knocked a bit too often. And I think it's because we're running less, monsters that we're setting than a typical, kind of Chaos deck. There's turns, where I'll have the option of either setting the Spy or summoning Venus turn 1. And, most of the time I'll go Venus because I want to decrease my chances of drawing into, copies of Shine Ball. So I'll usually go Venus first to kind of thin out my deck. And then, maybe next turn I have an opportunity to summon Zaborg or something. And then we get to turn, my 3rd turn and I set a Spy or a Faith. It's kind of inevitable that it's going to get knocked at that point because my opponent's seen more cards. So that can be one of the problems with the deck. I can, see a variation of this possibly that, doesn't lean so much on flips, maybe cuts the Faiths and runs some recruiters and stuff. But, really, I just really have been kind of recruiters have really underperformed for me in testing when I've ran versions with Tomato or Shining Angel. They just don't get it done in Go format for me, at least in a deck like this. So yeah, Spy, self-explanatory. Tribe, I explained this, triple Zaborg, Breaker, staple, and then 1 Chaos Sorcerer, 1 BLS. There's a world where I could maybe consider a 2nd sorcerer. Probably not though, honestly. I think this deck, can suffer from consistency issues. So I think having, the second Chaos Sorcerer would be a bit bricky, but I think 1 Sorc, 1 BLS is perfectly fine. So let's look at the spells and traps. One of the more recent additions to the deck is the copy of Premature Burial that I've been testing out. It's been okay. I don't know if I'll necessarily keep this in or not. It obviously facilitates the Zaborg, so sometimes you'll have those hands where you're not able to get a monster to stick on board and you need to get that Zaborg live, so it can help with things like that. You can also like summon monsters and then swap them over, but that never really feels amazing. But it's okay. I mean, you're running tribute, so I don't really hate it in this deck, but there's not always a great, ton of targets, so still testing that out. It's up in the air. 1 Book of Moon, I can see this being played, yes or no, depending on the kind of meta you expect. It's just a good flex spot card. Nox, the Trinity, all this kind of standard stuff. 1 Mind Control in the main. I really want to lean into the fact that this deck has a good Chaos Turbo matchup. And I think because we run the Spies ourselves, it makes Mind Control really good. And I've always been a bit of a believer that Mind Control is quite a bit better game 1, at least right now. Because very often games 2 and 3, Chaos Turbo will play, beaters and side out many of their flips, so it becomes worse games 2 and 3, but it's always just a 1-for-1 out to a Chaos monster. The MST, creature swaps, Heavy Storm, and then the trap lineup is something I've gone back and forth with. It's probably 1,000 times about this deck. One of the main things that I wonder is, do I play Decree? Do I not? Do I play real traps? Do I not? Do I play Dust Shoots? Do I not? There's just a lot up in the air about how I want to configure the trap lineup, and I've tried a lot of different things. Decree is just so good sometimes and so bad sometimes, and I finally decided, at least in this version, that I'm going to side them, but I don't always bring them in. It really is kind of dependent on what my opponent does, and sometimes it's only like a game 3 thing to kind of catch my opponent off guard. I think this card is very powerful in this deck because you can just do all the Zaborg, swap, Chaos Monster, Faith, stuff that you want with no interference. But at the same time, it can be a dud in the right instances. And also there's powerful traps that I want to play myself. So I elected to go with a kind of package like this: double jar, double dust, and then 3 kind of staple traps, or 3 really good traps in GOAT format. I like the jars. I like draw power in this deck. My version that I topped with ran like 3 jars and double upstart. I just wanted to make things as consistent as possible, and it really enables you to make sure that you're not drawing into, the shine balls before you draw into Venus. And so, being able to summon Venus and then, and then bring out the shine balls and then flip jar really ensures that you're not going to draw into those dead vanillas, because drawing these are just not great at all. Dust Tornadoes, it's just simple. It's like 1-for-1 removal to kind of enable your plays to go through. I don't necessarily know how I feel about this card because it kind of simplifies. I mean, it obviously just simplifies the game state, and that's not always what I want to do in this deck. I don't want to be, top decking against Warriors when I'm playing a deck like this, but at the same time, it really helps enable your plays to go through. So yeah, still kind of on the fence about Dust as well. Then yeah, Ring, Mirror Force, Torrential, I think that's all kind of self-explanatory. As for the side, like I said, I still don't know 100% how I side into. It really depends on what my opponent does. It's not quite set in stone how I'm going to side, but my biggest revelation with this deck is that it really needs more defense games 2 and 3, mainly because of the prevalence of Asura Priest. We saw a few months ago in one of Alvarado's turbo lists and many other turbo lists, we've seen double Asura in the side, and many people side correctly against this deck, incorrectly against this deck. There's like Zambira, people bring in Zambira, and I just don't really feel like it does a ton against this deck, or they'll basically side how they would against Warriors, and I feel like that's not really great either. But if they side into like Asura Priest, this card just absolutely bodies Fairies if you don't have a way to deal with it. And so it's really important to have that defense games 2 and 3. That's part of the reason I've been leaning away from Decree, is because typically I would have Decrees in the deck and they would see that Decree is up, so they knew they'd be able to just go all in with Ashura Priest, clear my Venuses, and then I'm left with dead swaps and dead Zaborgs in my hand, or clear my Shine Balls, I mean to say. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's kind of why I've leaned away from Decree and really leaned into Battle Traps. It really depends on what my opponent does, right? If I see that they're doing the Zombira thing, I won't necessarily side into Battle Traps, because a lot of the times that they have a Zombira on board, I'll have a Spy or a Reaper or a way to kind of wall them out for a bit, or they just, you know, take the Zombira to 1900 by, you know, killing my Venus or one of my Shine Balls or whatever. That's perfectly fine, because then I'll just tribute back over the top with Zaborg later. But if I see they're siding into the Ashura Priest, I'll definitely bring in these Battle Traps. I'll even bring in like this copy of Book to help with that as well. And then Decrees, like I said, it just kind of depends. I'll always bring it in against like Burn and certain decks, but I won't even always bring it in against Warriors, because very often I want to be, you know, siding in these Sakus. I think they provide more value than the Royal Decrees do. Well, depending on, you know, how things play out. But like I said, it really is the way my opponent's side is really going to affect whether or not I bring in this Decree, because I feel like games 3 at that point, they'll have not seen the Decree, so they won't expect it, and it can be really powerful in the right instance. And so then I'll talk a little bit about how I side for, you know, aggro matchups, because like I said, this deck does very well against Turbo, but it does struggle against like rogue stuff. Like if you play against like zombies or, you know, just other random decks against Control, it's not amazing. It's okay, but it's not amazing. And that's where I've really struggled. And this has been the kind of the frustrating thing. The like 2 tournaments that I brought this deck to, I just played against jank the first like 4 rounds, and I was able to scrape out some wins, but I really just want that nice like run of Turbo players. I think that'd be great, but you know, that's GOAT format. It's part of it. You know, you make a deck like this that's really designed to counter the best deck in the format. Well, you're punished by not being that versatile against other matchups. So that's just how it is. Now, against aggro, there's a lot of instances where I will consider even siding out the entire Venus Shine Ball package, just because they just don't do a ton against aggro. Now, I sometimes will keep it in. It really depends on what they're doing, but the main thing is that the Zaborgs will go out, because Zaborg just is not good against Warriors. It is better against like the Thunderclap type deck, and I'll maybe consider keeping 1 or 2 in, but I will always side, like if it's just a standard Warrior list, all of these Zaborgs go out in favor of the Mobiuses, because the same, you know, logic applies. Like we're really, with the Venus, with the Spies, with the Reapers, we have a very sticky, you know, board, and so it's really easy to resolve Mobiuses. Another fun fact about this deck, because you play Decree, because you play Mobius, because you play Zaborg, like the matchup against Burn is free. I think this, like I've never lost against Burn playing this deck, because you basically keep all of the tributes in, you bring in the Mobiuses as well, and you know, anything that you like, the creature swap as well is really good in the Burn matchup. So like any of these tributes, they're really easy to make live against Burn. Like you're never really needing, you know, because they're not like getting after your monsters that often. Very often they're going to be, you know, putting the tokens on your board, which you can swap them over, take one of their monsters, and then tribute off their monster for a Mobius or Zaborg to pop their other monster. So I just feel like this deck does really well into Burn, which is nice. It's a plus for sure. But yeah, against aggro, obviously the Zombiras will come in, the Mobiuses will go in place of the Zaborg, and then, you know, I'll do some configuration to get these Sakus into the main. But really, that is about it. I know I've just been talking a lot about this, but you know what? This is my damn YouTube channel. I can talk about whatever I want to talk about, and I don't feel like I should have to justify myself. But, you know, give this deck a try if you're, you know, interested. I actually have taken a bit of a break from this deck. I kind of got burnt out on it after a while of just all of these matches and matches and matches. So I kind of needed to step away, and this is me like revisiting it. And I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what I think about the deck, why I think it's good. You know, at the end of the day, though, like I don't think this is, you know, the new S tier deck in GOAT format. I really don't. But at the same time, I think it is good. I think it can hang with Chaos Turbo. Like I mentioned, I think it has a favorable matchup against Chaos Turbo. I think it's can hang with some of the other decks in the format. It's just, you know, I'd say tier 2, something along those lines. And but I still think it's quite underrated, quite underplayed, and potent if played correctly. It's also one of the problems with this deck is I've just, like, I don't always play the best, like I would love to see like a really good pilot, what they can do with this deck. I just make a lot of boneheaded plays sometimes when I play this that have cost me. And I think that, there's plenty of matches that I could have won where I just have straight up played bad. So it is what it is. Got to be better. I wasn't sure if I would originally include this, but I have some extra time. So let's hop into a match with the deck. So maybe we can see it on display. These, kind of videos where I just record as I hop into the ladder can be really hit or miss, but we will see how it goes. I also have like a lot of, replays with the deck. I don't know, didn't feel like busting any of it out for this video. So our opponent starts off by setting 1. Draw the second spy, which is a bit unfortunate. So let's think here. Probably go spy, ring, dust. That seems reasonable. Maybe an argument to set the torrential there as well. Koichi, okay. So they don't have a spy themselves, or they probably would have set it turn 1. So we got the Chaos Turbo matchup. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of the key components for why I think this deck does well against Turbo, specifically the swap type stuff. But that's okay. He doesn't have knock, which is good. This is going to allow us to kind of slow down the pace of play a little bit and set up. I don't want to give him a ton of time, though. Obviously, he's on Turbo. So I feel like this is a torrential here. No, it was our Geki break. All right. And then I draw into the ball. Bit unfortunate. But what you gonna do? I think I'm just gonna pass. We will just pass. This is not a good start. Like you see right there, turn 1. If he just would have, like if I would have just drawn like Venus swap, Venus Zaborg, would have been quite a bit more potent than what I'm looking at here. That's okay. BLS is nice. What is he setting here? Maybe another Dekoichi, maybe I could definitely see like a spy, or yeah, like a spy, maybe. Like what's that accomplishing? I'm just trying to figure out whether I want to set this Shine Bowl or not. I don't think it's going to get knocked if I set it, but at the same time, like do I want to keep it in hand for a potential discard later? I'm not sure. I think I will actually go ahead and set the Shine Ball and with the torrential, so hopefully we can wait for him to make an aggressive push or something and I can torrential this board, but that's a bit idealistic. Not off to a good start against Turbo, to be honest. Okay, so we got him to flip his Night Assailant. If he goes Tsukiyomi here, I'll probably will torrential. But it could definitely be backed by a Solemn. So Zaborg is fantastic because I imagine he probably set a Faith here. It's a good chance this gets Solemned, but I think I just need to go for it. That's a fine, yeah, torrential by me. We'll take that any day of the week. There's another Night Assailant. Interesting. Okay. No point in getting crazy with the BLS here, I don't think. Though now, he could definitely set a Faith. He probably has drawn one at this point. It's a bit unfortunate. There's that Prima that's not doing a lot. So he's definitely got Chaos Live himself. What could he have set? I haven't gotten Dust Shooted. Maybe he has like a Raigeki break back there, another one. I'm not sure. Maybe a Solemn. I'm just going to set the Spy and pass. I just don't think it's worth committing this BLS to just, you know, deal with this Faith. I think I'm just playing into, you know, allowing him to go way up in cards, which he does anyway if he flips Faith. So maybe I should have, but I don't know. I was going to say, maybe he had a Spy set of his own, in which case he definitely would have wanted to flip it first. Okay, so it was the Faith. Damn. It's okay. I've won games from worse positions than this. But regardless, this isn't looking great. This Prima isn't doing a lot. He has Thunder Dragons, so I kind of want to get after the Sangan before he's able to. Trying to think if there's like a universe where I can like just steal this game with like Prima BLS, something along those lines. I'm not sure. Let's just go for it here. I mean, I guess I do have the Prima on the so he Solemns. Okay, so now he's never coming out. Damn. But that will put him at 37. So if I can get an attack to go through with the Zaborg and then I ring, I just win. But I don't know if this attack will go through. I'm just going to go for it. And just like that, we stole a win. Look at us go. I will take it. Okay. So I actually do kind of want to bring in the Decrees here, namely because he didn't see the Venuses, or he did see a Shine Ball. But I'm going to lean on the side that he probably won't bring in like the Ashura Priest stuff. So I think I will side out the go with the jars. I'll keep the dusts. I'll actually take out one dust for a Book of Moon, which I know seems a little weird against Chaos Turbo, but I kind of like just that additional protection, and it's usually pretty good against the types of things that people like to side in here. So I think the rest of this is pretty good. We're just going to keep it as is. The deck is really, you know, designed for Turbo regardless. So though we definitely were getting smoked, but good setup. If our Venus can live, then this is ideal. But we get Dust Shooted, unfortunately. Now our hand just becomes infinitely worse. That's a bit unfortunate, because I had the Mirror Force to protect it. He would need Tribe, and then I would go back over one of the Shine Balls with Zaborg. But you know what? Dust Shoot exists in this format, so And he went first, so it is what it is. Makes sense. I gotta think about what I want to set here. What'll he expect me to set? I think it's better if I set the dust, because it immediately, like, the threat of that is going to be in his mind, so he won't consider summoning like a breaker or something unless he has like a jar back here. So I think that makes the most sense. If he goes spy, I think it's okay. So he does go breaker. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That was a little strange. Yeah, because now I just have like snatch the board. I mean, he's going to have an answer to this snatch. What is going on? Huh. Okay, I think I just do it, right? Like, there's no point. Now that I have the Prima, especially, like, why not? And he doesn't have Chaos Live, so. Definitely a bit of a mistake there on my opponent's part. So we know they have another spy in hand. I mean, this is just perfect. He's going to have to ditch the spy. No point in mirror forcing here, because we have the Prima to go back over the top. Kind of lose to Heavy Storm, but whatever, you know. Let's force the issue here. And there it is. Wonder if that was right off the dome or if he had it. And now we have been reversed. I don't think there's a world where I decide to wait on that. Oh, this is interesting. Quite a few things to take into account here, because this is a tough choice. What does he grab off of Sangan? What does he have in hand? I think I actually am gonna take the Sangan. I know that seems a little crazy, but I don't believe, because if he gets Sinister off of Sangan, then like my creature swap becomes infinitely worse. My other idea was like if he grabs like, you know, like a Dekoichi or a Night Assailant or something, just to like try to set something, then, you know, I'll get even more value out of my creature swap. But I think at the end of the day, let's just take the Sangan, put as much damage on the board as possible. If he, you know, has a way to clear this, then he has a way to clear this. But Tribe's gone. We know he doesn't have Chaos Live, so Snatch, that hurts. Yeah, that's right back in his favor. Okay, so I need a Zaborg of my own. So then he grabs the Faith. He's going to set it. And I'm going to need some nice top decks here. That's not going to do it. If we can just survive, like Decree plus BLS if I can find a dark monster, it's pretty good. But he has nothing that he really wants to get from the Faith anyway, and this is just what we need. So not actually a horrible spot. Do I Decree first? Because this could definitely be a Solemn. I think so. Venus. That's not doing a lot. Like, do I attack into the Faith now? Because then he'll be forced to get the heavy. And then he can't really play it, but I do feel like I need to set the book to stay alive. I don't know. I kind of want to just... I can die, though. There's several things I can die to here. So I think I'm going to do this. I don't know if this is correct or not, but it's what I'm going to do. He has to get heavy now. So on his turn, he has heavy. He's going to try to crash these. I think I just passed. I don't know if this was correct. I think I might have messed that up, but those weren't great draws off a pot. The problem is sometimes also, yeah, and then he just gets chaos. Damn. Or he might have had it. Okay. That dust shoot really set us back early. I think that was a bit of like my opponent having a lot of the answers they needed, and on top of that, me not really respecting the types of outs they could have. So I think I'm going to take the Decrees back out, put the Jogs in, and then I'm going to actually go with these Sakus in place of the Jars, just because we saw the Kaiku, which can be a problem for this deck. That all seems fine. Let's just rock it. We get to start off this time, which would be nice. I probably should have sided into dust shoots. That makes a lot more sense. All right, great start. If he has tribe, he has tribe, but I think otherwise we're in a pretty good spot. Sweet. Yeah, I like this setup a lot. Swords, okay. Swords into Snatch. Huh. Yeah. Seems pretty good. Well, what do I do here? I think I could just set Spy and feel pretty good about my sitch. Like, I don't even necessarily need to use the breaker to start getting after it. Because if I do, then I just have to trade Breaker into this Venus. But like, okay, so there goes the Spies. That's fine. We still got Faith. Now he's gonna be able to clear our Shine Ball now, which makes the Zaborg a lot worse. So I'm almost tempted to like Mirror Force this, but I'll wait. Like I even could have just gone Zaborg like that second turn just to put a body on board quickly. Breaker. Yeah, damn. I'm the one getting punished now. Okay. This is not good. This is not good. I guess I'll set the Faith. And I'll set the Knock. I kind of want to prohibit him from, or de-incentivize him from getting really aggressive. He could easily go like tribute this for Thunder Dragon, summon, you know, some chaos or something. Luckily he doesn't have that though, so that is good. All right, feeling much better about our predicament here. Chaos Sorcerer, mega help. Don't want to be darks yet though, but I can definitely make one happen here. Okay. So I want to keep him off darks. So I think I go Breaker, pop the, I didn't think about this. It feels so bad popping the swords now. I think I will pop the swords. Because now I can crash. Main phase 2, knock this. Oh, that's fine. Because then main phase 2, I knock this. And then I go light dark to keep him off of darks. Yeah, that seems good. I actually really don't mind forcing out a battle trap here. Actually, you know what? Let's wait. Let's be a little more patient. Let's be a little more patient. in a very good spot now, because even if he like torrentials, I don't feel bad about this at all. I think I like going ahead and getting some value out of these Zaborgs. Grab ourselves a Reaper. I'm gonna go yeah, let's Graceful. Makes sense. And I'll probably just go Venus swap. That makes the most sense, I think. Now I can chain ring to a lot of things that could happen to the Sorcerer, just get the Dark Engrave, but I also have this way to get a Dark Engrave as well, so. Got Minecon and the Zaborg. I don't really like want a Zaborg any of these big bodies away. I mean, this is probably just game. I just need to find like heavy. It's not amazing. I think I will go ahead and go for this. Save the Minecon, get that extra Dark Engrave. Now I just push for a ton of damage. You could definitely have Mirror Force. Okay. Still think we're in a good spot. So I have BLS Reaper. I just need to not die here. I don't think there's any way I die here. He didn't have Chaos yet. If he has like Kaiku plus Solemn, that could be a little tricky, but okay. It's kind of style points there. So he's going to go Sinister, probably ditch a Dark. Yep. Duo. Alrighty, buckle up. There it is. Oh, that's not good. I don't have a lot of bodies left. Like he just... threw into it. I think I'll go ahead and ring this. Yeah, this is, did I mess this up? Like, I don't feel like I did. I mean, he just hit my BLS with Duo, right? I mean, there's not a ton to complain about there, I guess. I mean, he goes BLS too, like, come on. There's plenty of things I could draw into here, though, that would help me. What could his trap be? I mean, if it's anything, I just lose, so it doesn't really matter. But I should have to figure out what my play would be. If it's Solemn, I can get the Solemn out of the way by going Minecon. And that will do it. I almost messed that up by doing a weird ordering thing there. But luckily, we'll do a little style points ourselves to finish this off. It was a close match. I think I tried to throw there at the end a bit. I think it kind of showed the deck in action somewhat. It kind of shows what we're trying to do here. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's not a ton to see from just one, ladder match, one where I haven't played particularly well. I haven't been playing much GOAT format lately, so I wanted to kind of get back in the swing of playing this fairy deck and playing GOATs, and so it's kind of the purpose of this video. So yeah, I hope the match and the video was at least somewhat enjoyable. I know it was a bit rambly, so I just appreciate all the people that watch and comment and stuff. It means a lot. Consider subscribing if you haven't, and that's all I got. Until the next one, bye.